Ever wondered about the most mind-blowing skyscrapers that were almost built but never touched the sky? Imagine a mile-high tower in Chicago, a twisting spire over Lake Michigan, or a Dubai megastructure twice the height of Burj Khalifa, all designed, planned, even partially built, but never completed. These weren't just buildings, they were bold statements of human ambition, and today, we're diving into 7 of the most jaw-dropping skyscrapers that never became reality. Let's go! The Illinois. Imagine standing at the base of a 1-mile-high skyscraper. Yes, you heard that right. 5,280 feet of pure architectural ambition towering over Chicago. This wasn't a sci-fi fantasy, it was the bold vision of legendary architect Frank Lloyd Wright in 1956. If built, the Illinois would have been the tallest structure on Earth by an absurd margin, dwarfing even today's Burj Khalifa by over 3,000 feet. Wright wasn't just designing a skyscraper, he was reinventing the city itself. He believed Illinois could replace dozens of buildings, centralizing urban life into one 528-story vertical metropolis. It would have included apartments, offices, hotels, schools, and even parks, all stacked into an elegant, tapering glass and steel tower. The cherry on top? Atomic-powered elevators that could travel at 60 miles per hour, making stops feel as smooth as a whisper. So why don't we see the Illinois piercing Chicago's skyline today? Simple. It was impossible to build. The 1950s lacked the materials, engineering, and economic backing to make it a reality. Wright's idea was too far ahead of its time, and without today's advancements in super-tall construction, it never got off the ground. But was it a failure? Not at all. Illinois inspired generations of architects, pushing the boundaries of what skyscrapers could be. Maybe one day, when technology catches up with ambition, a mile-high tower will finally rise, and Frank Lloyd Wright's dream will become reality. Miglin-Beitler Sky Needle. Imagine a Chicago skyline dominated by a sleek 1,999-foot tower, nearly double the height of the Willis Tower. That was the dream behind the Miglin-Beitler Sky Needle, a project announced in 1988 that could have made history. If completed, it would have been the tallest building in the world at the time, an architectural marvel designed to redefine the city's skyline. The tower was the brainchild of real estate developers Lee Miglin and J. Paul Beitler, with the legendary Caesar Pelli designing the structure. It wasn't meant to be just another skyscraper. This was supposed to be a towering beacon of wealth and prestige, with its sleek cylindrical shape and a design optimized for office space at dizzying heights. But ambition doesn't always align with reality. Despite its groundbreaking vision, the project faced major financial hurdles. Then, tragedy struck. Lee Miglin was brutally murdered in 1997 by the infamous serial killer Andrew Cunanan, the same man who later killed fashion icon Gianni Versace. After that, the project lost momentum and was eventually abandoned. Today, the Miglin-Beitler Sky Needle remains a fascinating what-if in Chicago's architectural history, a skyscraper that could have changed the city's skyline forever, but instead faded into the pages of forgotten dreams. London Millennium Tower. Imagine a 1,270-foot futuristic tower rising above London, reshaping the city's skyline forever. That was the vision behind the London Millennium Tower, a dazzling proposal by renowned architect Norman Foster in the late 1990s. This skyscraper wasn't just tall, it was a glass-clad giant, designed to be a self-contained vertical city with offices, apartments, and even parks stacked within its soaring 92 stories. Sounds incredible, right? Well, not everyone thought so. The tower was meant to be built in Canary Wharf, but Londoners weren't exactly thrilled about it. Critics feared it would dominate the skyline, overshadowing historic landmarks like St. Paul's Cathedral. Aviation authorities also raised alarms. Its height posed a serious risk to flight paths over the city. With mounting opposition and government pushback, the Millennium Tower never left the drawing board, but instead of vanishing completely, its DNA lives on. Foster didn't let his vision go to waste. He adapted parts of the design to create 30 St. Mary Axe, better known today as the Gherkin, one of London's most iconic skyscrapers. So while the London Millennium Tower was never built, it still made its mark, proving that sometimes even rejected ideas can lead to something legendary. Palace of Soviets. Now picture this, a 1,362-foot skyscraper in the heart of Moscow crowned with a massive 328-foot statue of Lenin, staring down at the city below. This wasn't a scene from a dystopian novel, it was a real plan by the Soviet Union in the 1930s. A project meant to showcase communist supremacy through sheer architectural dominance. The Palace of Soviets was supposed to be the tallest building in the world, towering over everything with its over-the-top grandeur. Designed to host government meetings, massive rallies, and communist ceremonies, it would have been the ultimate symbol of Soviet power. Think gargantuan halls, intricate Stalinist designs, and an enormous Lenin pointing toward the future because, of course, what's a Soviet skyscraper without Lenin? Construction actually started in 1937, but then came World War II. Steel meant for the tower was repurposed for war efforts and the foundation was left abandoned. After the war, Soviet leaders lost interest and the dream of the Palace of Soviets crumbled into history. Today, the site where it was supposed to stand is home to the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, a symbol of Russia's shifting history. The Palace of Soviets never materialized, but its bold, almost surreal vision still fascinates architects and historians alike, a reminder of how architecture can be as much about ideology as it is about engineering. Watkins Tower. What if London had its own Eiffel Tower but even taller? That was the grand vision behind Watkins Tower, a 1,200-foot steel giant that was supposed to dominate London's skyline in the late 1890s. It was dreamed up by Sir Edward Watkin, a railway tycoon who wanted to outshine Paris and turn Wembley into a tourist paradise. The tower was meant to be the tallest structure in the world, featuring observation decks, restaurants, and even amusement rides at different levels. Imagine standing at the top, looking down at Victorian London from a height no one had ever experienced before. It would have been breathtaking. But here's where the dream fell apart. The project faced massive engineering and financial issues. The land was unstable and construction was riddled with setbacks. By 1899, they had only completed the first 154 feet, and the half-built structure became a laughingstock, mockingly called Watkins Folly. By 1907, the failing project was scrapped, and the skeletal remains were demolished. The site didn't go to waste though. Fast forward a few decades, and Wembley Stadium rose in its place. So while Watkins Tower never soared into the sky, its ambitious spirit still lingers in one of the UK's most iconic locations. A bold dream that London simply wasn't ready for. Chicago Spire. Imagine a 2,000-foot twisting skyscraper piercing the clouds over Chicago's skyline. A spiraling marvel unlike anything the world had ever seen. That was the vision of the Chicago Spire, designed by renowned architect Santiago Calatrava. If built, it would have been the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, redefining the city's architectural legacy. The design was breathtaking, a graceful, swirling structure inspired by the movement of smoke rising from a fire. This 150-story residential tower was meant to house luxury condos with 360-degree views of Lake Michigan. Celebrities and billionaires were already eyeing it as the ultimate status symbol. Construction actually started in 2007, and Chicago prepared for its next iconic skyscraper. But then the 2008 financial crisis hit hard. The funding collapsed, lawsuits piled up, and the developer, Garrett Kelleher, drowned in debt. By 2014, the project was officially dead, leaving behind nothing but a deep, abandoned hole in the ground, a stark reminder of what could have been. Today, that empty foundation still sits there waiting for a new dream. The Chicago Spire was meant to be a futuristic masterpiece, but instead, it became one of Chicago's greatest architectural what-ifs. Nakheel Tower. Think the Burj Khalifa is tall? Imagine a skyscraper twice its height, a mind-blowing 3,280-foot tower standing over Dubai like a futuristic giant. That was the vision for Nakheel Tower, a structure so ambitious it seemed like something out of science fiction. Originally called Al Burj, this 200-plus story megastructure was meant to be the centerpiece of an ultra-luxurious district. It wasn't just about height. This tower would have included residences, hotels, offices, parks, and even sky gardens, essentially creating a vertical city. The inspiration? The Alhambra, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and Islamic architecture blended into a modern engineering marvel. So why didn't it happen? Simple: money and timing. Announced in the early 2000s, the project gained momentum but was crushed by the 2008 global financial crisis. The Dubai real estate market collapsed and funding dried up. By 2009, Nakheel Tower was officially cancelled, leaving behind nothing but blueprints and speculation. Had it been built, it would have shattered every height record, making Burj Khalifa look like a mid-sized building in comparison. But instead, Nakheel Tower remains a symbol of Dubai's boundless ambition, one that, this time, reached just a little too high. And that's a wrap on 7 of the most incredible skyscrapers that never got built. Each one was a vision of the future, but for one reason or another, they remain just that, a vision. Which one fascinated you the most? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more amazing architecture content only on DwellScape. Imagine a billion-dollar hotel left unfinished, a ghost town of abandoned castles, and a city built to look like Paris completely empty. Around the world, massive real estate projects have been abandoned, turning once grand visions into eerie, lifeless ruins. From futuristic resorts to entire islands left to decay, these places tell stories of financial failures, lost dreams, and mysterious misfortunes. Today, we're exploring 7 of the world's most expensive abandoned real estate projects and the haunting tales behind them. Ryugyong Hotel, Pyongyang, North Korea. Imagine standing in the heart of Pyongyang, North Korea, and looking up at a massive 105-story pyramid-shaped skyscraper completely empty. That's the Ryugyong Hotel, a structure so imposing it's often called the Hotel of Doom. It was meant to be a shining symbol of North Korea's progress, an architectural marvel that would outshine the world's finest hotels. Instead, it became one of the largest abandoned buildings on the planet. Construction began in 1987, a time when North Korea wanted to flaunt its success to the world. The plan? A futuristic glass-covered luxury hotel with 3,000 rooms, 5 revolving restaurants, and a breathtaking panoramic view of Pyongyang. It was supposed to be North Korea's answer to the towering skyscrapers of the West, proving that the country could stand toe-to-toe with global superpowers. But then, disaster struck. By 1992, economic collapse hit North Korea hard, and the project came to a grinding halt. The half-finished concrete skeleton of the hotel loomed over Pyongyang, a constant reminder of a dream that never came true. For 16 years, the Ryugyong Hotel remained nothing more than a hollow, lifeless shell. In the early 2000s, hope returned when foreign investors from Egypt's Orascom Group took an interest, covering the exterior with shiny glass panels. But while the outside looked stunning, the inside remained completely unfinished. No rooms, no plumbing, no electricity. Today, despite several rumored opening dates, the Ryugyong Hotel is still empty. A $750 million skyscraper abandoned in plain sight. It's a ghostly monument to a nation's ambition, frozen in time. Sanji UFO houses, Taiwan. Imagine driving along Taiwan's northern coastline and suddenly spotting a cluster of abandoned, futuristic, pod-shaped houses that look like they were built for an alien civilization. That's the Sanji UFO houses, one of the most bizarre and expensive failed real estate projects in history. Back in the late 1970s, Taiwan's economy was booming and investors had a wild idea: build a luxurious seaside resort with a look straight out of a sci-fi movie. The plan was to create a modern vacation retreat for wealthy travelers and U.S. military officers stationed in Asia. But instead of traditional beach villas, they chose a radical design, circular, flying saucer-like buildings elevated on stilts, made entirely of reinforced plastic. It was supposed to be a paradise, but from the start, the project was cursed with bad luck. Construction workers kept reporting strange accidents, injuries, and even deaths. Some believed it was because they had disturbed an ancient burial ground, while others claimed the entrance arch to the site, designed in the shape of a dragon, had been torn down, unleashing bad energy. Then came the financial troubles. By 1980, money had dried up, and the developers abandoned the half-finished resort, leaving behind a ghost town of eerie, pastel-colored UFO houses. Over the years, nature took over, and urban explorers flocked to the site, capturing haunting images of decaying alien-like pods under the foggy sky. For decades, the Sanji UFO houses stood as a surreal post-apocalyptic scene, drawing in curious travelers and ghost hunters. But in 2010, the Taiwanese government demolished the entire site, wiping away one of the world's most fascinating architectural failures. What was meant to be a futuristic paradise became an expensive, short-lived mystery, forever buried in the sands of time. Burj Al Babas, Turkey. Imagine walking through a valley filled with hundreds of identical mini-castles, their pointed towers reaching for the sky. But there's no life here, no laughter, no warm lights glowing from the windows, just rows upon rows of abandoned fairy tale-like mansions, standing eerily silent. Welcome to Burj Al Babas, Turkey's most extravagant ghost town. This ambitious project began in the early 2010s, when developers envisioned a luxury residential community that would cater to wealthy buyers from the Middle East. Inspired by European castles, each home was designed to look like a miniature version of a French chateau, complete with marble interiors, grand balconies, and stunning views of the Turkish countryside. The plan? Build 732 castles, plus an indoor shopping mall, Turkish baths, cinemas, and even artificial lakes to make it a true paradise. But what was meant to be a luxurious escape for the elite quickly turned into a financial disaster. As the Turkish economy took a downturn, the demand for these high-end properties collapsed. By 2019, the developers filed for bankruptcy, leaving nearly $200 million in debt and a half-finished kingdom of abandoned castles. Today, Burj Al Babas is one of the strangest abandoned places in the world. The castles remain frozen in time, some with incomplete interiors, others crumbling under the weight of neglect. Without buyers, maintenance, or any clear future, the entire project has been left to decay in eerie silence. It's a real-life ghost town straight out of a fantasy novel, a kingdom where no one ever ruled, and where the dream of luxury turned into one of the most expensive real estate failures in history. Buzluja Monument, Bulgaria. Imagine standing on a remote mountain peak in Bulgaria, staring at a massive spaceship-like structure that looks like it was abandoned by an advanced alien civilization. This is the Buzluja Monument, an eerie, decaying symbol of a fallen political empire. Built in 1981 during the height of communist rule in Bulgaria, the monument was meant to be a grand celebration of the Bulgarian Communist Party. It wasn't just a building, it was a statement, a futuristic masterpiece designed to inspire generations. Its circular structure, towering over the Balkan Mountains, looked like something straight out of a science fiction movie. Inside, it was even more breathtaking. The walls were covered in massive murals of communist leaders, and a giant red star, 3 times bigger than the one on the Kremlin, shone from the ceiling like a beacon of socialist power. But history had other plans. By 1989, communism in Bulgaria collapsed, and with it, so did the importance of Buzluja. The once glorious monument was abandoned almost overnight, left to the mercy of the harsh mountain weather and relentless looters. Over the years, the beautiful mosaics crumbled, the ceiling caved in, and the massive red star was shattered. What was once a proud symbol of power became a haunting ruin, frozen in time. Today, the Buzluja Monument is one of the most famous abandoned buildings in the world. Urban explorers and photographers risk climbing its deteriorating staircases just to witness its eerie beauty. Although there have been talks of restoration, it remains a ghostly relic of a lost ideology, a place where history whispers through the cold winds that howl through its hollow halls. Tianducheng, China. Imagine stepping into Paris, walking past elegant Haussmann-style buildings, strolling under the shadow of a 300-foot-tall Eiffel Tower replica, and gazing at lush gardens inspired by the Palace of Versailles. Now imagine that same place completely empty, streets without people, grand apartments without residents, and a city built for tens of thousands but eerily silent. Welcome to Tianducheng, China's abandoned Paris. Built in 2007, this extravagant project was designed as a luxury community for China's elite, meant to replicate the romance and sophistication of the French capital. Developers planned for 10,000 residents, promising a dreamlike European experience without ever leaving China. Wide boulevards, marble fountains, and even Parisian-style cafes were all part of the vision. But something went terribly wrong. The dream city never found enough buyers. Real estate prices were too high, and the location, far from major economic hubs, made it inconvenient for daily life. Slowly, the once bustling Paris of the East turned into a ghost town. The grand buildings stood, but no one came. For years, Tianducheng was a symbol of China's real estate bubble, a cautionary tale of overambition and failed urban planning. The empty streets became a favorite spot for wedding photographers, giving the illusion of being in France without the price of a plane ticket. But behind the glamorous photos, the reality was stark. A city built for luxury, abandoned by reality. Although recent years have seen some efforts to revive Tianducheng with new developments and residents moving in, much of the city remains eerily quiet, a multi-billion-dollar experiment in architectural imitation, frozen in time. Hashima Island, Japan. Imagine an island that looks like a floating fortress surrounded by crashing waves and covered in rows of decaying, crumbling buildings. No roads, no people, just the eerie silence of a place frozen in time. This is Hashima Island, also known as Battleship Island, one of the most haunting abandoned places on Earth. Back in the early 1900s, Hashima was a booming coal mining town, home to thousands of workers and their families. At its peak, this tiny island, just 16 acres wide, became one of the most densely populated places on the planet. Towering apartment blocks, schools, a hospital, and even a movie theater were packed onto the island, making it a self-sustaining concrete city in the middle of the ocean. But Hashima wasn't just known for its industry, it also had a dark side. During World War II, forced laborers from Korea and China were brought here under harsh conditions, working in the deep coal mines beneath the sea. For them, Hashima wasn't just a workplace, it was a prison. Then, in 1974, everything changed. Japan's energy industry shifted from coal to oil, making the mines obsolete. Almost overnight, Hashima was abandoned. Families packed up whatever they could carry and left, leaving behind furniture, personal belongings, and entire apartments untouched. Within days, a once bustling city became a ghost town, swallowed by nature and decay. For decades, the island remained off-limits, a concrete graveyard beaten by typhoons in time. But in recent years, Hashima has gained worldwide attention. It was featured in films like Skyfall and has become a hotspot for urban explorers and historians. Despite its eerie beauty, Hashima remains a chilling reminder of human ambition, industry, and abandonment. These abandoned real estate projects stand as eerie reminders of ambition, failure, and lost fortunes. Some were victims of economic collapse, others of poor planning or strange misfortunes. But one thing's for sure, they leave behind fascinating, ghostly landscapes. Which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to DwellScape for more incredible stories of architecture and real estate. Have you ever walked through a city where a centuries-old castle stands right next to a futuristic glass tower? Some places blend history and modern innovation so seamlessly that they feel like a living time machine. From ancient streets lined with skyscrapers to futuristic districts hiding centuries-old landmarks, these cities prove that the past and future can exist side by side. Today we're exploring 8 cities where modern and historic architecture blend perfectly. Let's dive in. London, UK. London is like a time machine that refuses to pick just one era. One minute you're staring at the majestic Tower of London, its stone walls whispering stories from the medieval age. The next, you're craning your neck to take in the ultra-modern Shard, a glass and steel giant piercing the sky at over 1,000 feet. But that's just the beginning. Walk down the streets and you'll spot Victorian townhouses, Gothic churches, and cutting-edge skyscrapers, all blending together like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of architecture. One of the most striking contrasts, St. Paul's Cathedral and the nearby Millennium Bridge. On one side, you've got a 17th century masterpiece with a stunning dome designed by Sir Christopher Wren. On the other, a sleek, futuristic pedestrian bridge that looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. And let's not forget the Gherkin, that quirky bullet-shaped skyscraper that somehow fits perfectly among historic brick buildings. London doesn't erase its history to make way for modernity. It builds around it, over it, and sometimes even through it. The result? A city that feels both timeless and futuristic at the same time. Whether you're a history buff or a lover of modern marvels, London is a visual roller coaster that never gets old. Paris, France. Paris is a city where you can sip espresso in a centuries-old cafe, while gazing at a futuristic glass pyramid. Yes, we're talking about the Louvre Pyramid. Designed by I.M. Pei, this sleek modern structure was controversial when it was first built. How dare they put something so contemporary next to the Palais du Louvre, a Renaissance-era palace? But today, it's one of the city's most iconic sites, a perfect example of how Paris embraces both heritage and innovation. And then there's La Défense, Paris's ultra-modern business district. Just a short metro ride from the romantic streets of Montmartre, this area feels like stepping into the future. Towering glass skyscrapers, bold geometric designs, and the massive Grande Arche, a modern reimagining of the historic Arc de Triomphe, create a mind-blowing contrast with the city's old-world charm. But Paris doesn't just slap modern buildings next to historic ones, it weaves them together seamlessly. Take the Musée d'Orsay, for example. What was once a grand railway station is now a world-famous art museum, its Beaux Art architecture blending effortlessly with its sleek, contemporary interior. In Paris, modernity doesn't replace history, it enhances it. Whether you're admiring the Gothic beauty of Notre Dame or the sleek elegance of the Louis Vuitton Foundation, one thing is certain: Paris proves that the past and the future can coexist beautifully. Tokyo, Japan. Tokyo is where the past and future collide in the most spectacular way. Imagine walking through the ancient gates of Sensoji, a 1,300-year-old Buddhist temple, with its giant red lanterns swaying in the wind. But just a few steps away, you're suddenly surrounded by the blinding neon lights of Akihabara, where futuristic skyscrapers glow with LED billboards and robotic cafes serve your coffee. It's like stepping through a time portal without ever leaving the street. And then there's Shibuya, home to the world's busiest crosswalk. Above the sea of people, sleek glass towers rise, reflecting Tokyo's ultra-modern heartbeat. But hidden between the concrete and steel, you'll find Meiji Shrine, a peaceful forest sanctuary built over a century ago, where towering torii gates and ancient wooden halls remind you that tradition still holds its ground in this hyper-modern city. But Tokyo doesn't just preserve history, it reinvents it. Take Tokyo Station, a red brick masterpiece from 1914, now restored to its original grandeur while modern bullet trains zoom in and out of its underground platforms. Even the iconic Tokyo Skytree, a 2,000-foot-tall futuristic marvel, draws inspiration from traditional Japanese pagodas. In Tokyo, time isn't a straight line, it's a swirling fusion of past, present, and the future waiting to unfold. Istanbul, Turkey. Istanbul is a city built on layers of history, where Byzantine, Ottoman, and modern influences exist in a breathtaking architectural dance. Imagine standing before the Hagia Sophia, a building that has been a church, a mosque, and now a museum. Its massive dome and intricate mosaics whispering stories from empires long gone. Just across the square, the towering minarets of the Blue Mosque pierce the sky, showcasing the grandeur of Ottoman craftsmanship. And then, as if history wasn't grand enough, Istanbul stuns you with its modern skyline, filled with sleek glass towers reflecting the shimmering waters of the Bosphorus. But the real magic of Istanbul is how it blends the old and new so effortlessly. The Galata Tower, a medieval stone fortress, now shares the cityscape with ultra-modern suspension bridges that connect Europe and Asia. And beneath the bustling streets, the Basilica Cistern, an ancient underground reservoir from the Roman era, still stands strong, its eerie, water-lit columns feeling like something out of a fantasy novel. Then, there's the Bosphorus Bridge, a stunning feat of modern engineering that connects two continents in a single stretch, proving that Istanbul isn't just a relic of the past, it's a city that continuously evolves. Whether you're strolling through the Grand Bazaar, one of the world's oldest markets, or sipping coffee on a rooftop overlooking the glittering skyscrapers of Levant, one thing is clear: Istanbul isn't just a city, it's a living, breathing story of time itself. New York City, USA. New York City isn't just a place, it's an architectural battleground where the old refuses to back down and the new keeps pushing the limits. Imagine standing in Madison Square Park looking at the Flatiron Building, a 1902 architectural marvel with its distinctive triangular shape. Now turn your head slightly, and there it is. One Vanderbilt, a futuristic skyscraper with sleek glass panels reflecting the sky. The past and future aren't just neighbors in NYC, they're locked in an eternal conversation. The city is full of unexpected contrasts. Walk along the High Line, a once-abandoned railway turned into a stunning urban park where wildflowers bloom between steel tracks, all while cutting-edge glass towers rise beside it. And then there's Grand Central Terminal, a Beaux-Art masterpiece with celestial ceilings, still bustling with life in an age of digital screens and hyperloop concepts. But the real magic? NYC reinvents itself without erasing its roots. The classic brownstone-lined streets of Brooklyn now share space with ultra-modern waterfront developments. Even the World Trade Center site, once a place of loss, now stands as a powerful symbol of resilience, with the ultra-modern One World Trade Center soaring into the clouds. In New York, the past doesn't fade, it simply evolves, standing proudly beside the future. Barcelona, Spain. Barcelona feels like a city where architecture went to art school, got inspired by every era, and then decided to blend them all into one masterpiece. Walking through its streets, you'll see Gothic cathedrals, surreal modernist buildings, and sleek contemporary towers all coexisting like a perfectly orchestrated symphony. And at the heart of it all, the genius of Antoni Gaudí. His masterpiece, La Sagrada Familia, is the ultimate symbol of Barcelona's fusion of old and new. Started in 1882, it's still under construction, with traditional stone carvings on one side and futuristic geometric towers on the other. It's as if time itself got confused and decided to showcase every era in a single structure. But Barcelona isn't just about Gaudí. Take a walk through the Gothic quarter where medieval streets lead to hidden plazas. Then suddenly you find yourself at Torre Glorias, a futuristic bullet-shaped skyscraper covered in glowing LEDs. And then there's the Olympic Port, a modern waterfront district built for the 1992 Olympics, now filled with sleek high-rises that contrast beautifully with the ancient charm of the nearby old city. Barcelona doesn't follow the rules of time. It bends them, breaks them, and turns them into art. Whether you're wandering through a centuries-old market or marveling at the latest avant-garde design, one thing is certain: Barcelona is a city that refuses to fit into just one era. Shanghai, China. Shanghai is what happens when a city refuses to choose between the past and the future. So it takes both and makes them even more spectacular. Imagine standing at the Bund, a waterfront lined with grand colonial buildings from the 1920s, their intricate facades and domed rooftops telling stories of Shanghai's past. But turn your head and suddenly, you're staring at Pudong, where the skyline looks straight out of a sci-fi movie. The Shanghai Tower, a twisting glass skyscraper standing at 2,073 feet, towers over the iconic Oriental Pearl Tower, a structure so futuristic it seems like it landed from another planet. But here's where it gets even better. Shanghai doesn't just preserve history, it reimagines it. Take Xintiandi, for example. Once a neighborhood of old Shikumen stone gatehouses, it has been transformed into a trendy district, where traditional brick facades now house sleek cafes and luxury boutiques. And then there's the Long Museum, built inside an old coal bunker, seamlessly blending industrial history with ultra-modern design. Shanghai is proof that a city can race into the future without leaving its soul behind. Whether you're wandering through an ancient water town or watching the skyline shimmer from a rooftop bar, one thing's for sure: Shanghai isn't just a city, it's a time machine that lets you step into the past, present, and future all at once. Rome, Italy. Rome is the eternal city, and for good reason. It refuses to let time define it. You can stand in front of the Colosseum, a nearly 2,000-year-old gladiator arena, then walk just a few minutes and find yourself staring at the Maxi Museum, a sleek, ultra-modern art space designed by Zaha Hadid. It's a city where every era of architecture not only survives but thrives side by side. What makes Rome truly special is that it doesn't treat modern architecture as an enemy to history. It blends them in ways that feel almost poetic. Take the Ara Pacis Museum, for example. Inside, you'll find a perfectly preserved altar from ancient Rome, but it's enclosed in a modern glass and concrete structure, allowing sunlight to illuminate something over 2,000 years old. And let's not forget EUR, a district originally designed in the 1930s that now features a stunning mix of neoclassical buildings and contemporary skyscrapers. Even Rome's metro stations are works of art. Some, like San Giovanni Station, are designed like underground museums, showcasing ancient Roman artifacts unearthed during construction. Rome isn't just a city, it's a living, breathing timeline of human civilization. Whether you're tossing a coin into Trevi Fountain or admiring the bold, futuristic lines of Parco della Musica, one thing is clear: Rome doesn't let time control it. Instead, it turns time into art. Architecture tells the story of time, and these cities prove that history and modernity can coexist beautifully. Which one amazed you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you love exploring the world's most stunning cityscapes, subscribe to DwellScape for more amazing architecture and design content. See you in the next video.